There has to be a heart to it. There has to be something relatable to it. And I think you can't necessarily relate to con people and, mob gunmen or anything like that.
Lucky, listen to me. World's a complicated place. I taught you how to survive in the life that you were born into.
I know, Dad.
How important was it for you to keep the family drama element in such an action-driven show? Because at its core, there's not only a father and daughter relationship, but also a relatable breakup story and a pretty toxic mother-in-law and all these elements.
It is at its heart a very dysfunctional family. And I don't think any of us were interested in just doing a straight thriller. Like, there has to be a heart to it. There has to be something relatable to it. And I think you can't necessarily relate to con people and, mob gunmen or anything like that. But what you can relate to is the baggage that we take from our parents and our desire to individuate from that and become our own people, and how hard that can be. And in a story like this, it just, when the stakes are life and death, it just feels even harder. But I don't think any of us saw this as anything more, what we all saw first was a family story.
And I just like the idea of, we always talk about, do you inherit an addictive gene from your parent, or do you inherit this toxic bad cycle that you can't get out of? And that the idea of inheriting a criminal proclivity for, potentially conning people, seeing the world differently, like that to me was such an interesting twist on inheriting something from your father, or being raised to see the world like him.
And I will say one of the things that I really loved is that Lucky has all of these very intense and complicated relationships that she's navigating. But what we see over the course of this series is she's really coming into herself. She's really deciding who she wants to be. And so we see all of these different dynamics at play, but really what we get to experience over the arc of this journey is Lucky figuring out who she wants to be in her life.
While reading the book, were there any core moments for you that you went, oh, this has got to be in the show?
And some of them, there were certain core moments that, went into the scripts and didn't necessarily make it to screen. But I think everything having to do with Lucky and her father is based on conversations and moments that they had. Even if our setting was different, and even if our situation was a bit different, the moments between them, the back and forth, the sort of the recriminations and the anger and the love and the resolution of that all really, the book was our North Star for all of that. Like, I think the father-daughter relationship all, it owes its DNA to the book.
I definitely loved all of the flashback stories from the book where it was young Lucky and her father, because you could so see how she was raised. But sometimes when we would be on this propulsive present day journey, sometimes it's hard to live in a longer flashback because you want to get back to the chase. So that's where I felt torn.
There's so much that's so wonderful in the book. And Marissa Stapley, the amazing author, gave us the permission and invitation to actually really take the show, take the characters and the essence of the book, but do our own thing in the show, which I think Jonathan and Cassie very confidently and beautifully did. An example of a thing that's in the book that's a little different from the show is we didn't really delve into the backstory with Lucky's mother in the show in the same way that Marissa did in the book, because I think we were trying to sort of give our real estate to all of these amazing characters, and Jonathan and Cassie also created some new characters that live in the show. So I think fans of the book will love the show, and fans of the show will also be really excited to go back to the book and see what is different there.
Yeah, and there's just no way when you adapt 300-400 page book to put everything in there, because television just works differently and the storytelling is different, and it is of necessity sometimes a little more linear, and especially when you're doing a thriller like we were doing. Our goal was to take the meat of the relationship and the themes that Marissa was exploring and the world she created, like to feel that world around us, but to do it in a way that took us through 7 very visceral episodes. And we were lucky that she understood that was the process, and she gave us her blessing.
I know that the show is described as a limited series, but would you ever consider developing more? You've mentioned the plotline with Lucky's mother. That could be a nice starting point for another story.
I always think when you do a limited series, you're doing a limited series, but certainly Hello Sunshine has proven that's not always the case. I think think we have to see how everybody feels when it's done. And obviously, like, we all have busy schedules with other things. And I think Anya's probably busy for a while. It's something we haven't quite talked about yet, and we'd have to see how we feel after it airs. We certainly didn't design it with the intention of another season.
I always say, if the audience falls in love with it and they demand more, we're here for that. But we really did confidently. We always imagined this as a limited series. Jonathan and Cassie architected 7 gorgeous episodes that really take us on a journey. And I think it's a very satisfying ending. So either way, it's all great.